Well, you cannot hear.
Yeah, hold it low.
Turn the volume down and put your mic about.
I can't control volume. This is this.
Put your mouth right up to it like an ice cream cone, like that.
You want this loud? Wow, that sounds loud. Okay, sorry. First of all, I want to welcome everybody to the debate between our mayoral candidates, Shannon Francis and Jana Walker. My name is Ann Ladd, and I'm truly thrilled to see so many people here. This is great. The organizers of this event are the transition team volunteers who are not candidates, and every effort has been made to keep these debates as impartial and fair as possible. To that end, we are really pleased to have Jared Lloyd as our moderator tonight. Jared's been a journalist in Utah for more than 20 years. His experience includes print, radio, and television. He's currently the managing editor at the Northern Utah Standard Examiner, which is located in Mountain State. And with that, I'm going to turn over to Jared.
All right, let's see if I can get this microphone figured out. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't this exciting? You know, this is such a thrilling and challenging time for this dialogue. And for me personally, it's been fascinating to learn so much about what's going on as you tackle this new challenge of incorporating it into a new city. Will it be easy? I doubt it. Will it be worth it? I hope so. So I'm just honored to be here, taking it from our mayoral candidates as they discuss their vision and delve into how they plan to approach some of the tough challenges ahead. Before we get started, I'd like to describe the format of our debate this evening. To begin, each candidate will be given 2 minutes for an opening statement. Following their statements, we will immediately begin addressing some of the most important topics facing Ogden Valley in this pivotal moment in its history. Each candidate will be given about 2 minutes to respond to each question, and then followed by an optional 1-minute response from each candidate. Now it's too echoey, okay? Can you hear me? We can put it on mute. Is it not going to work?
No.
Gymnasiums like this eat up sound, so we'll have to do the best we can with the microphone. So I apologize for the acoustics, but we'll do the best we can. So after each of the candidates present their views on those questions, we'll move on to shorter answers on other important questions, where each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond. There will be no rebuttal to those questions. And instead, I have crafted the questions that I'll be asking this evening, but they are based on input from Ogden Valley residents. And I just wanted to say thank you for your involvement to ensure that candidates discuss the issues that matter most to you. After answering as many of the questions as time allows, we will provide a few minutes at the conclusion of the debate for closing statements from each candidate. The first opening statement has been randomly assigned, after which we will alternate which candidate will begin answering each question. So each of them will take a turn going first, if that makes sense. We ask that those of you in the audience refrain from clapping or otherwise interrupting the speakers. This is their opportunity to tell you how they see the issues. The more information they can share with you, the more informed you will be as voters. So let's get started. Janet, you were randomly assigned to go first, so please introduce yourself and provide an opening statement.
Thank you very much. Can everybody understand me? All right. So everybody, I'm Janet Walker, and I'm running for mayor for one simple reason. I want to ensure a seamless, successful launch of our incorporation. That's it. We must be ready on day one. There's a misconception out there that I'm brand new to this valley, and while it's true that I was not blessed to be born here, my family's owned property in this valley for close to 25 years. We've spent every family gathering and special occasion here in Ogden Valley for the last over 2 decades. 11 years ago, my husband and I decided to make it the move and make it full-time and raise our family here in this valley. And since I've done that, I was an active participant in this community. I've spent over 10 years being a volunteer, an organizer, an educator, and a board member to activities here in this valley. I've taught our schools. I've taught yoga. I've led the local blood drives. And I've sat on the board of the CMOV for about 7 or 8 years. For the past 4 years, I've sat on the Ogden Valley Planning Commission where I'm the chairman. Ooh, that would fast. I was asked to lead the transition team, in specifically in planning and land use. In that year and a half I worked on the transition team, I have learned just how difficult the challenge is to launch a city. It is complex. You must be an expert in finance, budgeting, negotiations. These are things that I bring to the table. I am running for mayor, and I humbly ask for your vote.
Thank you, Shannon. Now, Shannon, it's your turn to take the floor for your introduction and opening statement.
Ogden Valley, thank you for being here tonight. And thank you for those who joined us online. I want to thank our host, Jared Lloyd, our moderator, and those who worked so hard to hold these meetings together. Thank you so much. And thank you for your patience in being part of the election process. Thank you for your patience and putting up with all of our signs and all of the soundbites and letters to the editor. I appreciate you. Let me remind you why you're here. You're here because Ogden Valley has not had proper representation for many decades. For 30 years, I've been trying to get that voice back to the people where it counts. We subsidize the local county taxes, tax-wise, but we haven't had representation. This is why we're here. Please never predict this. I'm not going to say this transition is going to be easy. It's not. It's one, we're going to have bumps, we're going to have curses. But I pledge I will work my heart out for you, the people, like I've done over the last 30 years. I gained my education in public administration and land use planning and political science, so I could have tools to help you, the people. I started the Ogden Valley News. So we had an instrument to get the word out, what was going on, to hold our elected officials responsible. I ran for county commissioner, there again, to get a seat at the table for the people of Ogden Valley. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all those who supported me. And here we go.
All right. Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate it. All right. Let's jump into the questions. And I'm going to start out with a couple broader questions just to get a perspective on the candidates. So my first question, and Shannon, this is for you to start. Whoever wins the election will play an important role in setting the tone for the new city. So I want to ask you, first of all, what do you view as the biggest challenge facing Ogden Valley City as it takes this big step?
The biggest challenge there again, we're pioneering this is huge what we're doing. And it is going to take a lot of volunteer hours. It's going to take your voice, your support. I know not everyone was pleased about the vote for incorporation. I want to tell you that I will do everything I can to make sure that your voice is heard going forward and that we make this transition as smooth as possible. I have an education, I have the experience, and I have a history of track record of civil and community engagement to help that transition be as smooth as possible. And That's what I think the biggest problem will be. Also, we need to remember again why we're here and do things the way we want to do them and be independent of those who have tried to control this valley far too long. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. All right. Same question to you, Jenna. What do you view as the biggest challenge?
So the biggest challenge right out of the gate is getting our city launched. We have to create an interim budget. Our fiscal year doesn't start until July. Every city is from July 1st to June 30th. Interestingly enough, counties and things that we will need to negotiate interlocal agreements are on a calendar year fiscal year. So there is some education that needs to be done in how to balance budgets when they don't coincide. So first things first, we need to be able to contract for our services. We come online in January and heaven willing, we have a great snow year. But the better snow we get, the more expensive our bill and snow pickup is. We have to have our contract set before we begin in order to make sure that we can get out of our houses, our kids can get to school, and we can get to work. We also need our contracts with the sheriff up and running. We need law enforcement on day one. We need garbage picked up. And these things cost money, and we don't yet have income. So we need to have interim financing and all of our service contracts ready on day one. This is work that must be done beforehand. That is the biggest challenge for this first launch. After that, we have a fiscal year to set up. We have an entire budget to put together that we have to manage. Again, all of our income taxes. We need to have all of our land use laws written, adopted, and in the public arena. There are a lot out there, and they directly reflect us. If we are not ready, we are vulnerable to lawsuits, which will then incur additional taxes. It is imperative we're ready on day one, and that is the largest challenge out of the gate.
Shanna, we're now going to give you a minute to agree, disagree, add anything, clarify, add anything else. We've got a minute to respond.
Okay. There again, I think the biggest challenge too that Janet touched on, but it is huge. It's our budget. It's imperative that we do. We promised, or the feasibility study showed that we wouldn't have to raise taxes to have to stay in the same standard provided to the new city. But we know it went through an inflationary period. The numbers that those doing the feasibility study used were from the state and from the county. They were the best projections that we had. So for me, as mayor, and working with the city council, we also have to do everything we can to help ensure that taxes will not fall. And there again, we have a team, and all of the candidates also working together on working diligently, day after day, meetings every week, several during the week. Make sure that we are standing in this city. It's ready to go on day one. And I appreciate everyone who's getting involved in that, also our transition team, volunteers, and now the candidates who are working for you. They're all of them, I think, great. And they got us the good for.
Thank you. One minute for Marie about this specific topic.
Perfect. Just to go into a little more detail about the challenge for budget and these contract negotiations. As Sheila brought up, the expected revenue projections were high. They're not going to be what they were projected to be. As well, we don't fully understand our expense line item either. Well, the feasibility study gave us the projections of what they should be, and that would be right. If anyone has watched the county commission workshop meeting, they're not negotiating with us right now. There was also some talking points in there where they were saying, well, maybe when we do negotiate, We'll add in some extra admin fees and some additional fees here and there. We're going to need to have a budget where we need a person who is a experienced financier who knows how to deal with lower projections and higher costs. As far as I'm aware, I am the only mayoral candidate that has worked with multi-million-dollar budgets. I am the only mayoral candidate who has done high-level negotiations. I have the experience, the time, and the energy to do this for our community, and I pledge to do that.
So in this opening question, we've touched on a lot of issues that we'll address in more detail as we go through the debate. So we're ready to clarify a little bit more. But I wanted to ask a corollary question on a broad topic, and you guys have both started out addressing this. But if elected, when you take office, what would be your top 3 priorities? What are the 3 things you're going to address from the get-go? Where do you start? Again, we started this conversation, but let's get to the specifics of it. And you go ahead. It's your turn to start.
I may need to clarify a question here, because the top 3 things have got to be fiscal conservative budget, get everything in line in a balanced way so we don't need to touch our taxes, negotiating the contract so all services are provided and at the exact same level as you are accustomed to, and a law enforcement and revenue. Those are the top 3 things right out of the gate. If you're asking for further down the road, once that's established, is that what we're asking?
Well, I start with 3, but go ahead if you want to.
Well, those are the 3 that have to get done either way. A balanced budget, fiscally conservative measures put in place, negotiating the contracts. Everyone in here is expecting their garbage picked up. We got to get it done. So all of our service contracts and everything out of the way. And our legal system, all of our laws have to be written. Nothing carries over from the county. We are unincorporated. A lot of our laws are all mixed in with Western Weber. Everything must be rewritten. I have spent the last year leading a group of citizen volunteers to do exactly that. We have spent the year going over every single ordinance and code, reviewing and revising, so that it's the will of the people that ends up being passed when we launch this city.
Thank you, Janet. Shanna, same question. Top 3 priorities if elected.
So we know we're going to become a city in the middle of the winter. So there again, we need contracts for snow relief. And above all, it's safety, health and safety, and so contracts with our sheriffs. So there again, we're doing the preliminary work to set the templates up.
Hold your microphone up closer.
Get the contracts ready to go. Okay. Okay. All right. Can you hear me now? Raise your hand. Hear me. So we need the contracts going forward and make sure everything's in place. We need staff. We need IT set up. We need. So number 1 would be our health and safety contracts and an office that's ready to go, serve the public, law enforcement. We need to be standing strong. There you go.
Thank you. Trying to make sure that I got the mic off and on, make sure everything's working. Since I haven't lost one's button with the microphones, but optional 1-minute response to it.
So the only thing I'd really like to add is that we don't have any money for staff. Right now, this election is equivalent to a job hire. It is imperative that we elect people with the skill set to do the job. We cannot afford to hire staff to do it for us. This is like a startup company. Everybody elected is going to have to roll up their sleeves and work full time to make this happen. And we'll need volunteers from the community as well. But there is no money for staff. We need to elect individuals with the right skill sets, budgeting, negotiating, writing, legal backgrounds, all these things. Take these into account when we go to the ballot box. I promise you that we are all going to be affected either way with this election. It either is seamless and successful, which equates to you not feeling any difference. That's 100% success. Or anything less than that, you will feel. Whether it's financially or the lack of services, this is the reality. We need people who have the ability to do the job and that have the time, the energy, and the expertise to get it done. I believe that is me. I am offering myself as a service to this community, and I ask for your vote.
Okay, then one minute for your final thoughts on this topic.
I take exception with that. We will need some staff, even if they're volunteer. And I pledge, as your mayor, that I will not take a salary. And I challenge my opponent that she will also work, she will volunteer all of her time as mayor and energies and not take the salary also. We also, so there again, we do need a basic, very minimum of people to help with this. The feasibility study did give budget for at least a city manager or a mayor. And then again, we also will have contract workers that will be working with us. That's why we will have gap funding to run the city in the beginning. On average, they say it takes about 3 years to financially get on your feet. In the meantime, we still have to run the city, and it takes people. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've just been touching on this. We're going to be just you get the first shot of the next question. So we've been touching on this, but let's get into some specifics because we're talking about leadership and administration for the new city. And since both will be clearly important as things go forward, what skills and experience do you bring that make you qualified for this position?
Thank you for asking. That's a great question. I feel like my educational background, my experience, and again, my track record of 30 years working with government, working in planning, have put me head and shoulders above my opponent's experience. And day one, we need a professional to walk in, someone who's not wet behind the ears, someone who doesn't have time for on-the-job experience. I have that. This is what I've been doing for 30 years. I've been working for this back. I know I spent years going to the legislature, working. I have contacts. I have a network of people that I know. This is what I do. I do public administration and planning, and we need someone with the experience to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. Janet, now your turn.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take these things as saying that I'm young, which I love since I'm almost at my 50th birthday, so I'll take that as a compliment. I graduated from a top university. I have an MBA. I'm Six Sigma qualified in quality assurance and management. I was hired by one of the largest international organizations out of my MBA program, and I worked for 15 years in corporate America, ending my career as the North American marketing and sales director for an international organization. I don't know if that makes me wet behind the ears, but I've managed hundreds of millions of dollars. I have negotiated contracts in the boardrooms of Time Warner Cable, which does HP, by the way, since it no longer exists. MGM Studios, American Airlines, American Express. I worked with their CEOs in their boardrooms to manage contracts and strategic partnerships. Interlocal agreement negotiations do not frighten me. I have worked with NFL players, Olympians, NBA players. I have managed partnerships with them as well. I have the experience needed to sit on the organizational committee of the Olympics and not cower. We need a representative who is confident, with a spine of steel, and gets the point across, that represents this valley and our rural values, that ensures that we get the outside infrastructure money for the upcoming Olympic Games. We need to negotiate contracts with the county that have to be amicable and work for both of us. We need a friendly working relationship with the county, with other townships, with the state. I can provide that. I also have the public service background. I have sat on the Ogden Valley Planning Commission. I have chaired that commission. I led the denials of our most contentious land allocations. When the county was upset with us for what we did, I stood up. I went toe to toe, and I did it in a professional, respectful manner that allowed us to progress forward with a respectful, positive working relationship. I have the skills, the experience, and the time to put in to work full time as your mayor.
Thank you.
A business degree is great, but a master's in public administration is what we're talking about. And that's where I shine. That's where I have years and years of experience. 30 years of experience at least. And under the land use plan, I commend Janet Walpole for sitting on the planning commission for probably a little over 3 years. I also sat on the planning commission and had a chair position. And before that, sat on numerous planning committees here in the Ogden Valley that worked to ensure our voice was heard. More than anything, I'm a Generation Valley resident. I know the people. I know what you want. I know where you're coming from. I relate to you. In addition to education, experience, and my track record of engagement, I also have heart. I have a valley heart. Wants to work for you and to represent you. I know you. I know this valley. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenna, 1 minute for my thought.
Thank you. I know you've all seen Shannon's resume. She's published it multiple times. You've seen the resume. She is an excellent academic. There's no question. But I haven't seen any proof that she's managed teams, hired and fired, managed budgets, negotiated contracts. That's what's required in this role. I know that she's worked on the planning commission. I would attend in the audience when she was on there. I remember her nominating John Lewis to be chair of the planning commission, and she served under him as his vice chair. These are facts. We both have experience. I believe that I excel in the business arena because that's where I come from. I also have the public service background that it also takes to do this job. Everything I've ever done in public service in this valley has been unpaid, and not even with expenses paid back. When I drive down to Ogden, I spend there, I'm there till midnight at the planning commission, away from my family. That's my gas, that's my food, that's my everything. I don't ask for anything back. It's a public service. The fact of the matter is this valley is at a crossroads, and we need the right people with the right skill sets. I am the only mayoral candidate that has experience in corporate America. Leading teams, hiring and firing, negotiating contracts, managing budgets, forecasting budgets. How do you pivot when things don't go the way you want? If your pivot is to then raise taxes, everyone's going to keep calling you up. You gotta have a better plan than that.
Thank you, Jenna. Next question here. Many residents have expressed concerns about conflicts of interest, some of which could be legal with lawsuits, professional with business connections, or personal with individual relationships. So this is a two-part question. The first one's very simple. Do you have any conflicts of interest right now voters should be aware of? And then the second part is, if elected, how would you handle your duties if you faced a conflict of interest? So do you have them, and how would you face it if you did?
Thank you very much. Much to the opposition of what my opponent has put out in the paper, I have zero conflicts of interest. I have never worked for a developer. I am not a developer. I've never made money off of development. I have no ties to any special interests. I have zero conflicts of interest. I believe the next question was, how would I handle it? So you can look at my record when I was on the planning commission in the beginning years ago, because there was a time when my father had an investment with Wolf Creek Resort. In the early 2000s, he helped to buy the golf course out of Grossi. That's it. He's been to Augusta for that and out of that relationship for years. But in my very beginning of the planning commission, he still had that investment. I opened every meeting where Wolf Creek was on the agenda explaining exactly that, how even though it wasn't me, it was someone I was related to, and I felt the need to announce it publicly and recuse myself from all actions on the. If any of you were present, you watched me get up and walk out of the room. I didn't even sit there so that anyone could see anything on my face. I held myself to a higher standard than was necessary because my integrity does not depend on someone else's definition. I believe leaders lead and they act. I don't have a conflict of interest. My family doesn't either, but at the time, my father had that investment, so I exited the room. That's what I expect out of all of our elected officials. Things should be public, announced, and not taken participation of.
Hey, Anna, do you have any conflicts of interest currently? And if you ran into that situation, how would you address it?
You know, I think I did make a mistake when I said I had no conflicts of interest originally. And we had a debate over at the library, and I just piped up and said, no, I don't have any conflict of interest. Everyone has some type of conflict of interest. Just by the nature of living here. I've also been accused that I have a conflict of interest because I started the Ogden Valley News almost 27 years ago. And that could be a problem. When elected, I plan on having someone else take over the reins of my management of the paper. And in the meantime, I view doing the Ogden Valley News has been a benefit. It's been a positive thing. I've learned communication skills. I've been in numerous press conferences, worked with the people, and when you're mayor, you are to face the people. That's what you do. You deal with the public. You go to press conferences. I sat and I interviewed people who were in the 2002 Olympics. I met the senators and representatives. I have those skills. I've also had the humble experience of sitting down with people who got tragedy in Europe. And all of us, as residents of the valley, we're going to go through good things, good times, and hard times. And I know how to diplomatically handle every situation because of my experience on the paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Shannon, you're for another minute for anything on that.
Thank you. So again, I believe that leaders lead through their actions. They set the tone for what everyone can expect. My opponent has got a paper. Her conflict of interest there has been brought up multiple times without any response to it. Whether or not she feels she has one, we know for a fact that she has altered articles, taken off her opponent's name from things that were being said, as well as responded to letters coming in before anyone would even know about them. There's also a lawsuit going on that has stopped us from negotiating our contracts currently with the county. Shannon is a named plaintiff in that lawsuit. This is directly hindering our ability to get good negotiated contracts done ahead of time. These are conflicts I would love to hear addressed. Thank you.
Shannon, I give you a minute to respond and any final thoughts.
I'm proud that I was part of a lawsuit against the county. It's unfortunately it has been decided. The judges ruled on it. We're not appealing it, but I was part of that because I believe in due process and I believe in the public process and legal avenues to address wrongs is our right. I'm proud to be the daughter of Kent Fuller. If any of you know him, please raise your hand. I brought my cowboy boots and the cowboy hat this evening in his honor. He and his cousins and friends sued the county in 1999 over the illegal sale of our county property. The Wolf Creek Trail, how many people walked up the Wolf Creek Trail, bottom of a powder mountain? None of you walked it or been up there? It was his word. It took 3 years, and it took them, they had to go all the way to the Utah Supreme Court to win that battle, just because the prisoners didn't go through due process. But they got it back for the people. It's once again in public domain. I'm proud to use the systems that we have at our disposal.
Okay, time's out on this particular topic. So we'll move on to the next topic. This is one we've already started touching on, but obviously it's one that's enormously important. And that is running a city takes money, right? It requires money. So let's talk a little bit about budgeting. We started addressing a little bit, but let's start with addressing the city's income needs. Shannon, you get the first chance on this one. So how do you plan to address the city's income? What's the best way to get the city on its feet financially?
Okay, there again, yeah, there's many avenues, there's programs set up through the state. For instance, city road funds that we will be receiving that are based on mileage in the city. There's our sales tax, and there is just our general revenue that currently goes to the county. We get paid to the county. It's a line item on your property taxes. People think that because we're in the city, we're going to have an additional rate of taxes. And that's not so. That money that is going to the county will stay with the city. And so it takes a while for that to catch up. And there again, I said we'll have to have gap funding to get us through until we get on our feet. And again, it usually takes about 3 years. But we will be responsible with our money. There's also other avenues to gain money. What about our event fees? All the events that come to the valley, you should be capturing the funds for that. There's grants. There's tons of grants. I've written many grants through the years for different organizations. And for Ogden City, when I worked in their community development department and their planning department, I helped write funds. There's many avenues for shortcuts. We love open space in Ogden Valley. What about a 10% for open space volunteer fee that tourists can pay when they eat at one of our restaurants or visit our businesses? That's a great idea that we can capitalize on. Tourists that come here they come here because of the beauty and our open space and the rural atmosphere that we all love, and that's our vision for this community. And so I think they would be more than willing to donate to 10% for open space to preserve that. Many different alternatives that I can share with you if you'd like to give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Janet, is your turn. How would you address the safety income needs? What's your plans?
So we need actual real plan and action, not pontification. Every city has to cover expenses before we have them come again. Shannon brought up taxes. The very first time we're going to see one single penny out of taxes is earliest will be spring. We have expenses before that. So usually what happens is a county gives an interest-free loan to the city that's launching. That's what happened with Marriott Slaterville. Unfortunately, we have currently a difficult relationship with the county due to lawsuits and certain things that have gone on in the past, and therefore we are not able to count on that same treatment. If we cannot secure the normal interest-free loan that counties typically offer, we must get a loan from a bank. That includes interest. That has been an additional cost that we did not originally plan to have. You need people with financial backgrounds to deal with things like that. That is what I bring to the table. Taxes come primarily from 2 sources. Revenues coming from property tax and sales tax, 50% each. Property taxes are picked up in arrears. We won't see a dime of that until the end of next year. You still have bills to pay, people. So, there are a lot of avenues that we have discussed on the transition team with the finance department. I have worked closely with. I am the only mayoral candidate who has worked closely with them, who has spent hours on the phone with the tax commission, making clear what we need to do to get everything accomplished so that we are ready on May 1 and able to collect taxes as soon as possible. We have also investigated avenues and new taxes that we can implement that are not additive to our residents. Things like a transient tax, things like occupancy taxes or recreational use taxes that do not necessarily affect the residents of this valley. Those are the focuses I take. I am looking for every avenue of revenue that does not affect your wallet. So.
Thank you. Janet, you can respond or add anything more down on this topic.
Sure. Ogden Valley community, we've often been known for a engaged, intelligent community up here in Ogden Valley. Wonderful people. And we have tons of the entrepreneurship spirit is alive and well in Ogden Valley. Again, I'll ask you, how many of you are entrepreneurs that have a home business? Also, we utilize Amazon and buy a lot online. All of that tax money and revenue from online purchases also goes to our valley. And there again, we don't have a lot of hard businesses. That means they have buildings here in Ogden Valley. But we do have a lot of businesses. And that generates a lot of income. I love our businesses. I want to foster them and be supportive of them and make sure that they have the tools that they need, advertise them on our city's websites, and then let people know what we have for the community available. And there are so many, it takes a little bit of creativity, but I'm a creative person. That's why I like art. So we have amazing, many avenues to help boost our income as we become more confident.
Thank you, Shannon. Yeah, 1 minute to add any final thoughts.
So Shannon's right. One thing people overlook in our valley is just how many businesses are here. They don't see very many brick and mortar, and so they think we don't have a big commercial base. But in fact, we have over 430 active business licenses with the county that are here in this valley. We have a business sector of this valley. I have a plan on how to promote and increase their revenue projections. My husband works for one of those local businesses. So it's a matter of somebody who has experience in strategic partnerships. I've spent hours talking to Kelly Waysgard on the phone and discussing difficulties that some of our local farmers and ranchers have. 2%, he told me, of the meat in this valley is local. Otherwise, they're having to ship their hay and their beef out. I will make it an initiative to educate our residents on how buying local helps keep your taxes low and helps keep money in your neighbor's pocket. The more we invest in our farmers, our ranchers, and our local businesses, the better our entire community is. That's my guarantee to you.
Thank you, Matt. So naturally, you started with income, so now we turn to spending. So Daniel, you get to answer this question first. But how should the city best spend the tax money once it starts coming in, and how should that be conveyed to the residents, transparent, so they understand how the money is being spent?
Excellent. So, I'm a fiscal conservative. I don't believe in spending a dime we don't have, and I don't believe spending more than we need to. We are required by law to provide the services that are currently the standard in this valley. Because we do not have the originally projected income in revenue, I will keep ourselves to just that. We cannot afford out of the gate to make additional expenditures. I know there are residents, I've talked to many that wish we had additional police officers, or if we had a better recycling program, if all of that can be put down into longer-term goal projections, the very first thing our elected officials have to do is make us solve it. We must get them running and we must balance the budget while doing it. We must provide you services that you are accustomed to, but not anymore. And if we don't have the money to provide more, I won't do it. I will not allow our city council, if I have anything to say about it, to go into debt in order to build a palace that we don't need. Nobody voted for a corporation because they wanted 5 more police officers, or they wanted garbage picked up an extra day of the week. It was a very clear vote for those that actually voted in favor. It was about land use decisions. We have passed and we will have control over that, but I will not allow us to go into debt to try to provide something that people didn't ask for. That's that.
Thank you. Anything else to say? Tax money has to start rolling in and be transparent to the citizens.
Okay, first of all, transparency is #1 in my book, and so is fiscal responsibility. Easy words to say, but I will put my actions where my words are too. If you look on your property tax bill, I mentioned that line item, the funds that go to the county that we pay and that were assessed. And it's a minute percentage of all of the other taxes that are collected by Weber County. So we have, plus if you look at your tax bill, we have Weber Fire District, Weber School District, Mosquito Abatement, Weber Mason Water, Conservancy Districts. And they keep raising the taxes. That's where most of your property taxes go. And it's not, even if you double what we'll pay, that heaven forbid, no. It would be a small percentage of what these other districts keep raising their taxes. My point in having this conversation is, in the past, right here, there again, our elected officials have been acting, in my book, and many of others, fiscally irresponsible. They keep financing the biggest developers in the valley. And they use that money, they get that money from all of these districts. They've been paying millions from their budgets to subsidize developers, many of them in Ogden Valley, Powell Mountain, the latest Morning Valley, and other big ones on the horizon that want to use tax increment financing. I will not do sweetheart deals to use your tax dollars that will keep raising our school district and our fire district's budgets, taking our money from us because their budgets keep getting depleted by these programs.
Thank you, Shannon. Janda, do you want to possible a response to add to this topic?
Just to add that we have the control over the special districts. We can't, as a city council, have any say in what our water, fire, parks, or library charge or tax bill. We know there will be a tax raise this year. You will see it as your property tax. Was it from the city? No, we're not even running it. But the school board passed a 5.64 tax raise, and that will show up on your property tax. We don't control that. But because we don't control that, even though our line item is small, every dollar that goes up in our line item is one more on top of all the ones being raised where we don't get a say. So we need to work really hard to make sure that we keep our line item neutral, that it doesn't go up. If we're able to make that happen, I will feel it was a successful incorporation to be able to maintain our tax dollars neutrally while taking control of the future of our valley. That's a success in my book.
Thank you.
I respectfully disagree with Ms. Wampler. We do have an impact on these different districts. I know someone who was on the River Fire district. And Commissioner Rohr would come to those meetings and lay out a scheme and a plan to convince them to donate these millions of dollars to these development agreements that they create, that they generate and work with special developers. It creates a level playing field. We have lots of villas in this valley. They don't get any city car deals. They don't get the tax dollars to pay for their infrastructure. Why in the heck are we paying for infrastructure for developers? The program is set up that we've been using is meant to incentivize development in areas that are blighted or need economic stimulus. Ogden Valley does not need economic stimulus, and we're the fastest growing in the state.
Okay, that's always time we have for this particular topic. But Jen, the next question is going to be, and it's going to address this exact same topic because it's obviously one that is huge, both from what I've seen from residents and what we've been talking about in the debate. But growth is a huge topic that has to be addressed. So let me ask you this question to start: how do you intend to balance the potential differing views on maintaining quality of life, private property rights, and appropriate development? How would you approach that?
Great question. I've been labeled as a no-growth person. Not true. I believe in families. I believe in large families. Kids and children that grow up and have their own families need homes. They need violent communities that are healthy and strong. And so, as an urban planner with graduate studies, there's industry standards and best practices. And Beaver County, our current elected officials have not been abiding by those. It's been a Wild West mentality. Anything goes. There again, they create a level playing field of winners and losers. What we need is, there again, first of all, a consistency doctrine that will ensure the general plan is adhered to, and that all planning decisions are consistent with the general plan. The ordinance just takes a couple of sentences to adopt. Number one. Number two, I pledge to have fair, transparent development and laws and ordinances that create processes that are fair for everyone, not just special interests here in Ogden Valley. We need measured and transparent growth that follows these industry standards and best practices, so it becomes a winning community for everyone. A winning community doesn't overstress their infrastructure. It doesn't cause a problem with water where you have literally many, many lawsuits against water companies, raising our water bills. Who says that that's good planning? We will make sure that there is developers that does, and anyone who wants to build, that they first show proof of water and sewer capabilities before they invest and keep investing monies. So then they have every incentive to legally sue because they've already invested sometimes millions of dollars in projects that they start, and then they can claim damages. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Yeah, okay, so the question is, how do you balance the potential differing views on maintaining quality of life, private property rights, and appropriate development?
So the whole goal of the Ogden Valley General Plan, which I hope everybody has had a chance to read, the whole goal is exactly this point. How do we honor private property rights while protecting and preserving what we love about this valley, this rural agricultural character and some values and history? That is the general plan in a nutshell. How does that go? Those two things are often in conflict. Every resident that's a landowner in this valley has rights to do whatever they want on that land that is allowed within their zone. You can develop it, you can sell it off, you can subdivide it, And you have that right. I am a property rights person. I believe in protecting your property rights. However, if we want to maintain the rural agricultural nature of this valley, we have to figure out a way to make that happen while respecting property rights. So the general plan has a plan for exactly how that works. I personally think the plan is brilliant. It does need some revisions, number one, because it includes areas that are no longer in our city boundary. Number two, because the state requires the add certain sections that were not a requirement before. But number three, there are things lacking in it that we want to make sure that we say are values of this valley that must get into. The very first thing you do is you make a clear vision for the valley. That's the general plan. The second thing you do in planning and land use is then write corresponding land use laws that will actualize that general plan. The only thing that we can enforce are the laws. That is how we have had some of the controversial things passed. And regardless of the lawsuit, that was not withstanding, was that it was a biblical law on the books. We must change those laws. I've spent the last year working with a large group of citizen volunteers to do exactly that. Review and revise all of our land use laws so that they will actualize our general plan and make it come to fruition. We must have strong, clear, concise land use laws, and yet we apply them fairly across the board. Everybody that's a landowner, that includes developers, have property rights. We must have land use laws that apply freely to everybody and get us where we want to go.
Thank you, Tina. Your minute response or additions or anyone on the side?
Thank you. She's preaching to the choir if she's talking to me. I believe in property rights. I studied authoritarian governments in my undergraduate and graduate studies, living in Russia and studying Soviet history and politics. I'm a capitalist, but I believe in capitalism. It works. The thing I don't believe in, well, I do, but as I mentioned before, I believe in a free market economy where principles of free market principles rule the day. And going down, there again, you shouldn't be subsidizing development. Development must pay its own way. If it's viable, they'll be able to proceed with their plans. If it's not viable, they shouldn't get subsidies to make it viable. And that's what we've been doing. I believe in property rights, and I will uphold those and do it fairly.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Shannon. I appreciate it. Yeah, one more minute to add anything.
I'm sorry to forget the question, but I think there was something in there about how it would reflect the role of the people. And so I wanted to make a point that I believe strongly that our Valley, our voice is not a slogan. It needs to be made a reality. So the way that I conducted the transition team in terms of planning and land use was a fully transparent and inclusive operation. We published multiple times across all mediums to invite citizens to come and participate. I created an online system for those that couldn't show up in person but still wanted to participate. We had over 100 people do that. We had regular meetings set up so that everybody had home assignments that came in, they worked on it. I believe that is democracy at its finest. People saying what they want their laws to say. Laws made by the people, for the people. That's what we're doing. We're creating a brand new government for this valley, and we need to start off strong. We need it where it's public participation, transparent, and made to actualize what you all want. This is our home. It's ours now to lead and protect. And it's going to take all of us to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. You get the first shot of the next question. This is also something that we've been touching on. But there have been plenty of challenges between Ogden Valley and other local and state governments, particularly Weaver County. We've touched on some of those challenges with Weaver County. So how do you plan to work with county, state, and other local city governments if you're elected?
Excellent question. Thank you. I believe I'm the only mayoral candidate that has a positive, productive relationship with our county commissioners. I do not know them socially. I've only worked with them in the capacity of being a citizen as well as a planning commissioner. We have had arguments. We have had disagreements. But my style of conducting myself is to always remain respectful and professional. We've gone toe-to-toe on occasions and always ended up with a handshake. I have a positive, amicable, professional relationship, and I believe that I can make negotiations happen with the county for the benefit of our valley. When it comes to working with the state level, or even all the way up in the federal district, we have to create a coalition. On the transition team, we've already been working with people from the League of Cities and Towns. This is a nonprofit organization that helps small cities and towns group together to access abilities of attorneys and insurances and things like that, but also to be able to go down and lobby at the state level as a larger coalition than just one small entity. So we will have to work with coalitions of people to go down and become a force of mass.
Thank you, Janet. Janet, is there same question about over in your county and other state, local, city?
So, because I've worked with Beaver County for so many years, I have a great network of friends and associates at the county who I respect dearly. They work hard for the people. I honestly believe that we have, sometimes we have elected officials, though, that I believe are not there to represent people, but to represent more, so special interests. And if you want, let's remember why we're here again, why we incorporate. It's because we wanted a different trajectory where we have a voice. If you want a mayor who will put up with whatever the county throws a bone to us for, or I will be a man who'll stand up with you. That's what I'm trying to say. I won't put up with their shenanigans and the silliness. If that causes a rift, so be it. First of all, I believe in diplomacy, and I will do everything to negotiate. We all want it to be a win-win situation. If you want to, go online and watch the August 18th World Session of the Mayoral County Commissioners. And I guess my time is up, so call me. I'd love to talk to you about this. But I will continue to work for you.
Shannon, you still have a bit. We'll get you 1 minute here in just a second. Janet, if you go ahead. Yeah, Janet, you get a minute to respond to this question. Add anything additional that you might need.
So those that voted for Mayoral Corporation voted mostly because they wanted us to take over control of the trajectory of our valley. That is true. However, the success of our incorporation does rest with a friendly working relationship with our county. As I said before, they can offer interest-free loans. The snow plowing will be significantly less expensive if we go contract with Beaver County. Our sheriff, our garbage, all these different things, all these different public works, they're already having to come up here for various reasons. It helps them and it helps us. But what doesn't help us is that people have a contentious relationship. We need to be able to sit down and discuss things amicably and productively.
I don't know the answer to continue where I am earlier.
There's, and I believe in building bridges too. We're all better off when we have good relationships. That's a given. But there again, we have to stand up for ourselves. I worked with Sheriff Arbon for a long time. The Sheriff's Department is interested in working for us. We're interested in working with them. We're interested in working with all of the departments in the county. And they have shown interest to us. We have pretty much just one commissioner who is, I believe, using as a political pawn or a political chip to make sure that I'm not elected because he has a personal antagonistic feelings toward me for running against him for county commissioner. And there again, maybe not putting up with some of their shenanigans. So he won't be in office for much longer. And I've always gone with, so again, everyone in the county, and look forward to working with you in the future.
Okay, time's up on that topic. Thank you, Shannon. So that's going to be the final one of our questions that we kind of do the back and forth with Ramel. So the next few questions that we go to, I'm going to give each of you a chance, a couple of minutes to respond, and then we'll move on. So there won't be any extra time on these. Okay? So the first question I have is related to stuff we talked about as well, and that's the general plan. Do you believe that the new city should adopt the existing general plan or create a new one? And Shannon, you're going to go first on this question.
Right. The general plan that we adopted in 2016 was a great general plan. And I'm currently working with the candidates on that planning team. And I volunteered to take that general plan and go through it. I've already gone through it and made revisions to make it applicable to Ogden Valley. You have to take out things such as references to Ogden Canyon and a few other things. I also, because of my planning background, I see many areas where we can tighten it up to ensure that it meets the goals and visions of our community. And before the new plan, so what I'm saying is we don't want to scratch what we already have, but we would like to tweak it, make it applicable for us, and then move on. As we stand up the city, we're going to have a lot on our plate, and creating a whole new general plan, we won't have the time for that. There'll be a time and place when that's appropriate. But for now, we'll take what we have, tighten it up, make it applicable to the valley, and then it will have to go in a public process again. Everything we want public involvement. Because of my years working in land use planning with the county, I know the value of the public process and making sure decisions aren't made before public hearings, before people have a chance to weigh in. So before we do it formally adopt it, you will have a chance to look at it and maybe make some suggestions for changes too. But let's get our city on the ground before we go through a process of adopting a whole new general. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Janet, you're answering the same question. Do you want to, should this new city adopt the existing general plan or create a new?
So we have 22 days from election until we are live. There is no time for a new general plan study right now. So I've had our citizen volunteers with the Planning and Land Use Transition team work on it. We spent a month going line by line. We had experts from their fields come in and weigh in on language about water conservation, agricultural protections, housing authorities, things like that. We've had local resident experts weigh in. We've had local resident good-hearted people just say, this is what I wish you would say. But we've kept all of the meat and everything, the general idea, all of it is staying in, because that was something that was through a public process and approved years ago. With that said, for the 4 years I've been on the Planning Commission, myself and a few others have been asking our county to reopen our general plans. It is a typical industry standard to look at it, to see if we need to update it in any way and make sure it still aligns with the majority view of the valley every 5 to 7 years. Our general plan is coming up on its 10-year anniversary. It is time to have a new study done. The transition team has reached out to the University of Utah and some of the other local universities, and they're eager to help us with that. They want their students involved in the process, which I think is excellent. So my plan is that we are going to, and what I've been meeting with the candidates, is to have them continue with the current document, adding in the language that we believe needs to be there, that the state recommends, that we take out what shouldn't be there. But the main document stays going forward. That will be adopted when we come online. We'll have public hearings and meetings. But not that long after, about a couple of years in, we're going to need to involve a new study to be done to make sure it's still in line with everyone's views.
Thank you, Janet. Okay, so we'll go ahead and to answer the next question. We've only got a little left because we're getting short on time. The name of the new city is something that's on people's minds. You much probably going to bring this up. How do you think the naming should be addressed, and do you have a preference?
So I don't personally have a preference on the name. I'm concerned with making sure that we don't have to raise taxes, that we are ready on day one. That's my biggest concern right now. I think it should be a public forum and full public participation. I think that along with the way that we did it when we were named in Stonecrest, we have a appointed committee, and there is a process that's out there, and it is a somewhat lengthy process that involves and gives an opportunity for everyone in the valley to participate. Kind of like a bracket system for our sports gentlemen here, but that we can narrow down names so that people, if they didn't get the one they like, maybe their second best is still in there, and they're arguing and voting for that, and we can watch it whittle down. But that is something that I don't believe our city council necessarily has a little time for right out of the gate. I believe we should outsource that to a committee of local citizens. I know there's one already working on it as we speak. And a lot of the same people on that committee were on the naming committee of Snowcrest. So I think we need to put that into place. It should be announced in public meetings and public hearings, announced so other people can ask to join that committee. It should all be a public process. But it's not something that the 5 people, the city council 5 members, just sit there and declare this to the new name. I don't think that's the case that should happen.
Thank you, Janet. Same question. That's the issue of the name.
Okay, this is really a deep topic, deep subject. People are passionate about what to name the city. Do I dare go out on a limb and say, I need these are the votes, but I'm keeping the name Ogden Valley. You know what? That doesn't matter because there again, it's up to the people to decide what they want their city to be called. Anywhere I am, go, and people ask where I'm from, I say Ogden Valley. I'm from Ogden Valley. We have tons of businesses, nonprofits that use the word Ogden Valley. The Ogden Valley Land Trust that I've sat on since about 2000, the Ogden Valley Land Trust. So what did we do with all of that? So these are things that need to be taken into consideration, and the whole people will need. Talk about shooting in the city. But there again, it's your city. I'm working for you. I will support whatever you want to name the city to be. And please don't change your vote or support one just because I totally want that.
Thanks, Jan. So, Jan, you're going to be first responding to this next question. There's a lot of, I've seen people raise the question of short-term rentals, which I know is a big issue in lots of places in the state. So how do you believe that the city should address the benefits and the challenges that come with short-term rentals?
Okay, great question. I think the last statistic I saw, there was something like 46% of the homes in Ogden Valley are non-owner occupied. And not all of them are being used for short-term rentals, but several of them are. And I'd like to do a shout out for Jan Fulmer. I saw her here. Several years ago, she did a lot of research on short-term rentals and worked with some of us on getting the county to adopt some ordinance and some guidelines and get some licensing fee set up and parameters for short-term rentals. I felt it was a little late in the game, but here we go. So, how I could deal with them, I looked at other cities that have dealt with short-term rentals, and the best suggestion that I found is in each district of their city, they set out a limit, a percentage, how many homes can be used for short-term rentals, and not only issue that many licenses. And why is that? It's because short-term rentals can literally gut a community. It drives up property values, less property taxes, makes it unaffordable for children and young families, and even senior citizens. So it's important that we deal with them.
Thank you, Sam. Janet, same question. How do you want the benefits and challenges of short-term rentals?
So I'm a firm believer that all of the residents in the valley need to know exactly what their rights are right away. Because believe it or not, the city council has the ability to change all of our property rights. So I have been very forthcoming on saying that I think everybody should have the exact same rights on January 5th as they did on January 4th. What that means in terms of short-term rentals is that the current ordinance would get carried over to start. We have people that currently own properties that have that ability legally. And they have rentals for winter that are on the books. So we shouldn't mess with things right out of the bat. However, this is a very, very hot topic in this valley. And I have heard from both sides, not only in public forums, but also in private conversations. And both sides have very good arguments. This should be done in the public sector. This should be done in meetings, in public hearings, and we should have multiple meetings on the topic. The fact of the matter is there is research that is very negative about short-term rentals. There is also the ability to use them proactively to help our seniors with their income levels to keep ahead of their property taxes. Some people feel it's it's not fair if they're in a zone, that it wasn't given that right. It offends their property rights and their belief in that. This needs to be done in the public forum. But right out of the gate, we should take what we have and then fix it after that.
Okay, thank you, Janet. Good answers on this next question. So let's talk big picture today. Let's talk about vision. What is your vision of the valley's look and feel 5 or even 10 years down the road? Let's take a big picture look about where you see the valley going here in 5 to 10 years.
So 10 years from now, we'll be descended upon by the Olympics. So I'm going to go further out and tell you what I would really like to have happen in this valley. And all of this is going to come down to, right now, the foundation that we're setting with how we launch. A strong launch prepares us to be able to progress forward rather than be bogged down with lawsuits and things like that. So if I can go pie in the sky in 20 years, we are multiple award-winning recipients of the Dark Sky Award. We are the proven gold standard of how communities in the Mountain West were able to preserve their rural and agricultural character in an age of progression. We have open spaces and view sheds and farms and gardens that grow that our children grow up learning about agricultural businesses. These are things that I believe are not only possible, but we need to put our money where our mouth is. We need to put it into our general plan. And then as we progress with our budgets, once we're solving, we build incentives and programs behind ensuring these things happen. In municipalities, they say, don't tell me what's important to you. They say, show me your budget and I'll tell you what's important to you. Where are you spending your money? We need to do that when we plan for this city. We want to have dark skies. We want clean air. We want a rural character to stay alive in this valley, and we need to be willing to work for it and fund it.
Thank you, Janet. Jackie, can you talk to me? What's your vision?
I love that she's read the general plan because that beautiful narrative she said mostly comes out of our current general plan, vision for this valley. And if you go through the last 3 general plans that Ogden Valley has adopted, they've all talked about the vision of the number one vision of this valley is keeping its rural atmosphere. That seems to be what's most prominent points to every one of us. That's what attracts our visitors, our tourists, investors. We have tons of investors who come here to this valley. We have people who own property here but don't live here, but they're also, they pay those taxes and they're also invested in this community. And they want to ensure that it grows responsibly. And so we can say, and we can talk about this beauty we want to keep and ensure remains. But it all comes back there again to planning and public administration. And that's where I have the skills in the background to ensure that this is what happens, and it's just not high in the sky.
Thank you, Shanna. It's your turn to take the first response to the next question. Again, I want another vision. This is another question about vision. You both are running for a specific role to be the mayor of Ogden City. What do you envision as being the most important roles of a mayor? What is your vision for that particular position?
That's probably the easiest question that I've been posed to me this evening. Because it's what I've been working for the last 30 years. My vision is to give the people of Ogden Valley finally a voice. That's why I was a sponsor of incorporation. That's why I ran for county commission again. That's why I started the paper. That's why I took the classes that I took through graduate school. That's my vision, to have a city and city leadership that's accountable to the people. That's why we're here. That's why we voted for incorporation. And let's do it. It's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. But together, we can do it. We got this. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Shanna. Janet, the same question. What is your vision for what it would mean to be the mayor of Ogden City?
So this is the most interesting thing I've done in my professional career. I am asking for a job where I don't technically know exactly what the job will do, or if or whatever it would get paid. That's a very odd situation to be in. The reality is that the city council can determine the role of the mayor. So the question being asked is, what's my vision of it? Because I've looked at our expected revenues and projections of expenses, I know that we don't have $180,000 to hire a city manager. That's the average median salary of the city manager right now. We don't have it, folks. So a mayor can do that job. In fact, when they don't do that job, when they're just a figurehead, that's when the city council hires a city manager. Why not just elect someone who can do that job? So that means the mayor is going to forecast our budgets. It's going to manage our budgets. It's going to be transparent and get the information out to everybody, pull information in. They're going to lead the meetings and conduct discussions and help advise our city council on what might be the best thing to do for the entire valley. The mayor is the representative of the entire valley. Each of our district representatives will need to work together to pass things, but they're really responsible to their one district constituents. It's the mayor that needs to make sure that things are going in the direction for the whole valley.
Thank you, Janet. So this is my last question for the evening, and it's stuff we've touched on a little bit, but I want to give you one final opportunity as part of this debate to answer this question. Janet, you can go first. What do you believe differentiates you from your opponent in this election?
I didn't, sorry, did you hear the question?
The question is, what differentiates you from your opponent in this election? We've touched on this, but I want to make sure you guys get one final opportunity to add anything that you want to answer this particular question. So, Dan, you go first.
I appreciate it. I like Shanna very much. We have, before finally became the city, we used to work together. When I joined the planning commission, she would call me and I would call her and talk about some of the things to do, some of the applications and how to go. But the things that set us apart are pretty stark. I come from a corporate world. I have run major corporations. So I have the business background. I have experience in economics, accounting, financing, negotiating, marketing, partnerships. I have relationships that are productive with the exact people we need to be sitting down and negotiating with. That is imperative. It directly affects our bottom line. We have started looking into plan Bs and Cs for things like snow removal because we can get talk with the county. That has driven up our expected expenses. I differentiate because I have a working relationship with people that we need to negotiate with. I have experience in the boardroom. I have experience on the Olympic level. Never thought that was going to come into use when I was doing it. But it's amazing that that's going to come a minute to hand. So I have the experience in all this, plus I have the public service background. I have served on these boards, I have managed these, I have worked in the municipal departments. I have relationships with engineering and all these different departments in the city, which I know that Shanna has some of those too. But I bring the professional and the public service to this role.
Thank you, Janet. Janet, your first answer is what can you read to differentiate you from your opponent at this election?
What differentiates us? Again, it goes back to tailored education, tailored experience, a tailored track record of over 30 years of working with elected officials and the people of Ogden Valley. Bottom line, I believe my experience is unparalleled in how it is suited specifically for this position as mayor. Through the years, I've wondered, why am I doing it? When my degrees, I could be out in the corporate world. I have original balls to work back in D.C. I have a son living out there. I love government. I love public administration. I love political science. But you know what? I didn't forget anything during the Ogden Valley years, because it's an honor to serve this community. And I wouldn't trade my decision to stay here in rural Ogden Valley in Ogden, Utah for anything, because relationships are what it's all about. I want to continue serving you and being your representative. I run businesses. I have experience working with the people. I know this valley and what it means to so many. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanna, Jan. Thank you for all of your thoughtful responses to my questions. So let's conclude the debate tonight with a chance for each of you to make a closing statement. You've got 3 minutes. If you choose to use all of it, Shannon, you start this time since Jen started with the opening statement. So, Jen, it's your turn.
Okay. Wow. There again, I don't have much more to say. If you are there that will work for you, that loves this valley and will work their heart out for you and has the skills and the background and the network and years of experience doing what it does, I ask for your vote and support. Let's see this over the finish line. We voted for incorporation. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy, but we can do it. I believe in the people of Ogden Valley. I believe in you. And we guys, thank you for your vote. I want to thank everyone, again, who was instrumental in bringing this together. Thank you for being interested enough in showing up tonight or online and watching this. And thank you for your love of Ogden Valley I'd like to share with you. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Shannon. Can I order for a closing statement?
So I think I agree. I think we've talked a lot about a lot of things. I'm sorry, I realized that we haven't actually talked about addressing these people over in the corner. So I want to make sure that I talk to you as well. But, what I've learned over the last year and a half on the transition team was that starting a brand new city is completely different than managing a city. They take completely different skill sets. Launching a city is very complicated. We need people that have the ability to get the job done. It is not simple. And especially we need to honor the fact that over 1,500 of our residents didn't even want this in the first place. I recognize that. I empathize and I feel for you. I was not one of the 100%ers. I saw pros and cons on both ends. I was tipped on the side of incorporation because I believed that during the Olympics, we didn't have any one time, that this valley would be carved up in the next 10 years. And I thought it was worth it. to take control. And I said in those discussions, if we can hire the right people, if we can elect the right people that can get the job done, this can be a success. It's imperative. It can go either way. But nobody's getting out of this, folks. Whether you voted for it or not, we're all in it. And we will all be affected by it, depending on how it goes. Again, if it is successful, you should feel nothing. Your garbage should be picked up the same it always was. Your house should be cleared. You should be able to get down the canyon or over the divide or anything else. You should feel no interruption. That is a success. If you don't see your taxes go up where we're able to affect them, that is a success. But you gotta hire the right people. And I know I'm making it sound, but that's what this election is. This launch is a job plan. After the fact, people are going to be able to manage what exists, fix things that were unintended consequences. That's a totally different skill set in a job. You need the people that can do a startup corporation, that have the time, the energy, and the experience to roll up their sleeves and get the job done. We don't have a budget to hire professionals to do it for us. We need to elect them. So I'm offering myself to you. I have been a stay-at-home mom in this valley. I have been a volunteer and a public servant to this valley for over 10 years. I've put my name forward and offered my expertise because I know that I have these skills. I want to see it succeed because I am a landowner. I am a taxpayer. I want it to succeed. I'm not in it to be a figurehead, to get my face around, or to be the representative of this valley in that respect. I am here to make our goal a success, and I respectfully ask for your vote.
Only a couple of thank yous to wrap up with an all three of you, the transition team volunteers for putting this in. Angela, thank you for being our time. We appreciate keeping us on track this whole time, and we appreciate that. And also, thanks to our candidates, to Shannon, Janet, for being here. Give them a round of applause. I'm going to be here. You be part of the process and have a great evening.